Welcome to Anywhere the Needle Drops. I am your host, Justin Flegel. If you're new to the show, here's what we do. We talk all things music and culture in the local Michiana region, as well as the wider region, and even sometimes the nation. And today we have a great guest in the Rough Tumble, self-described as dumpster folk thrift store Americana. So there's that. That's kind of fun, right? And Mallory and Scott, they were a lot of fun. Currently based in New Hampshire, but as you'll hear in the discussion, they also live something of a nomadic lifestyle. It's kind of cool hearing their tale of sort of being booted out by fate from the music mecca that is Nashville and, finding their way on the road. It was a fun discussion. They seemed like really cool people. I cannot wait to talk to them in person and see them live when they come to the Vickers Theater in Three Oaks. Let's see, that is July 6th. So put that on your calendar. Going to be a great show. It's a beautiful room to see some live music in. Small house, intimate. It's going to be a great time. Perfectly fitting for their music. And speaking of their music, before we dive into the interview, you're going to get a little sample. One of the tracks off their most recent album. Check this out. This is Ain't That the Way? And then to the interview.
Ain't that the way to burn a good spatula, she said. Stirring the pot just by starting your day. Ain't that the way to mess up without really trying? Not mean what you say. Ain't that the way to really cook my egg? I showed up, not at my best, and I'm starting all over again. Rock, paper, scissors, that's my guess if I'm gonna be alright. Finest work, this isn't it. I'm starting all over again, all over again. 1, 2, 3, pick a door, any door. It don't matter what door you try for, they're all locked or jammed anyway. No magic word, no ringing bell, just the same old stoop and step. Oh hell, guess I'll take my traveling salesman ass back to Santa Fe. I showed up, not at my best, and I'm starting all over again. Rock, paper, scissors, that's my guess if I'm gonna be alright. The finest work, this isn't it, and I'm starting all over again, all over again. To each your own, won't pick no nicks or bones about it, but I lost and found it, just lose it again and again and again and again. Ain't that the way to burn a good spatula, she said, just by stirring the pot. Hot damn, I'm stirring the pot again. Ain't that the way? I showed up, not at my best, and I'm starting all over again. Rock, paper, scissors, that's my guess if I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna be alright. Oh, I showed up, not at my best, and I'm starting all over again. Rock, paper, scissors, that's my guess if I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna be alright.
Well, welcome. Thank you. I'm sitting here with the Rough and Tumble, Mallory and Scott, and okay. I mean, I think we talked about this in the direct messages, but I mean, I didn't know who you were up until maybe a month ago because I got this random follow on Instagram, I think it was, and I'm like, who's this band? And then I saw a couple of shared people in the network, and I thought, well, I'll check out their music, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I saw you're playing at Vickers soon. So how did you find me? Because that's how I found you. So
man, the internet is a weird place, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Yeah, yeah.
Well, the truth.
Oh wow, what was that?
Oh, I think it's just that. I think
we just found out that this town has a noon siren.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what we just found out.
So we are in the Midwest. That
is decidedly a Midwestern town.
That is a Midwestern thing. Yes. The noon or 1 o'clock, depending on the city that you're in, siren testing. So for our listeners that are in the earthquake zones, that's what we do here. Is we have our tornado sirens. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just good testing of the tornado sirens.
That was very exciting.
Yeah.
This is the most exciting start to a podcast we've ever.
Okay. So how did we meet you? Well, we are on a 4-month tour. We're about 2 months into a 4-month tour, and being a band right now in 2024 sometimes looks like trying to fill tour dates very last minute.
Yeah.
And I think what we did was we
called out to the internet. I think we just did a call out to the internet and said, hey, look at our schedule. This is where we're going to be. These are the dates we would like to fill. Calling on you, Midwest. And if I know anything about the Midwest, they like pull through.
Oh yeah, always. That's how we do it.
And it is so cool. And so, and I think it was just like a series of, hey, you should meet this person. Hey, you should meet this person. And like, it was like, I'm maybe 3-4 degrees of separation before I just hit the like button on your profile. I was like, this guy looks like he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And so how did you get connected with Zach and the team over at Vickers Theater?
Yeah, same thing.
Same way.
Somebody through somebody, and they checked out our music and thankfully liked it, and they hollered at us and said we would love to have you. I think we're there. It's 2 days after.
Yeah, it's July 6th.
Yeah, July 6th.
July 6th. Yeah. We come through Michigan every summer, and
in Indiana,
and just that whole this whole region. So it's just a matter of time before we make our way to Three Oaks.
Yeah. Well, and I was looking at your tour dates kind of around that Three Oaks date, and you're not lying. I mean, you're hitting a bunch of stops in Michigan in the general region, for a while. So
yeah. We love Michigan in the summer. Well, I mean, I'm sure we would love it in the winter too. Like, we're from New Hampshire now, so we know what winter is like, but Michigan summers, there's kind of nothing like it. And we have been singing the praises of Michigan summers for years, and nobody who has not experienced it quite gets it.
Yeah.
But that's also good because it can be our secret.
That's true. That is true. It is gorgeous here, but it is nice. I grew up in a town called Bridgman, which is just a bit north of Three Oaks, and a lake town. And it was always funny because the city, I don't know, doubled in population for the summer times, and there was always a great moment where every sunset through the summertime, trumpeter would play taps as the sun went down. And it's been this long tradition in Bridgman for years. And it was always so funny because it's Labor Day. They do the last one. So on the Labor Day taps, the last one of the season, they do taps, and then you hear all these cars start up and drive off, and then you kind of look around and it's just the townies left at that point.
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. definitely worth checking out Bridgman when you guys are in the area, if you have some time to explore. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I do some work with Vickers. Actually, I'm a freelance writer, and I've gotten to know, the Zach, the current owner, who is fairly new, and I wrote a profile on them, and then we kind of bonded and connected, and have started doing projects together. So I actually host events out there. We're working on a couple of big projects for this summer out there. So it was all these pieces sort of fell together. I'm like, cool band and Vickers and all these different things. It's how this whole world works. It seems to be, like you said, the Midwest, right? So
yeah,
really is
synchronicity. That's the sort of stuff you're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah. And we always say that every time, like the entire world gets, is just a small town. Like every time you step out into it, it gets smaller and smaller in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. I was listening to the new episode of WTF, Mark Maron's podcast, this morning. And the guest was Billy Strings. And, Billy Strings is a Michigan artist originally. He came up in Michigan, and he mentions a good friend of his kind of on the fly that no one would catch. But I know her, Lindsay Lou. She's been on this show before. And so it's just funny. Here I am listening to this, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And they're mentioning these random Michigan people that, it's like you said, it's a small town everywhere you go. So, yeah. So so the first thing I did when you guys followed me is I went and grabbed your most recent release that I could find on, the streaming services. And I'm drawing a blank on what that was called. It was a full album, but
only this far.
I'm saying that again.
Only this far.
Yes. Yeah. So I was immediately plugged in. There were some themes in that album that resonated with me very personally in this moment in my life. And I don't know if those themes were your intended themes or, just what I was drawing out of it personally. It's one of those things where you never really know. But, I went through a divorce last year. I've been kind of in this life rebuilding phase. And there were so many moments on that album where I was like, get out of my brain. I remember I just got into my new house and I'm mowing this lawn for the first time, and I'm out there with my headphones on, listening to you guys as I'm mowing the lawn. And I just have to keep stopping. I'm like, did they say what they think they said? So can you tell me a little bit about that album and what came into it? What's behind it?
That makes a lot of sense. If you were going through any sort of separation, it is definitely an album that sits squarely at I would almost say at the tail end of grief. Like it is not, it is an album that is processing those final moments of transition that sometimes feel, they when you're looking at them, they look like inconsequential things, but whenever you're going through them, you're like, oh, this is a rite of passage in some ways. And so I think a lot of Only This Far was writing from a place of acceptance, not like a little bit past the anger point, a little bit past the deep sorrow, and kind of into the, wait, am I accepting this now? Is this my new life? And so definitely a transitional album still. I think that's often where we write from is from a point of transition. We very rarely write from a point of knowing. Otherwise, why? So I definitely, I could definitely see if you were in a, like, if you were splitting from another person or relationship or losing something, that I could see how we would be a little bit in your head.
Yeah.
We spent the last 8.5 years living on the road, in a little camper. And although we still do a lot of that still, like currently we're on tour, we got a place in New Hampshire. And so in a lot of ways it was, I think we were saying goodbye to this period of our life as well, where we were, just kind of traveling the country and more freewheeling than we are even now. And so, yeah, it was a marker for us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
As there was a life before we moved to New Hampshire, and now there's life after we moved to New Hampshire.
Yeah, but there was definitely, like, we were dealing with like very specific losses as well. I was dealing with the loss of my aunt, who was sort of my she was sort of my fellow black sheep in the family. Like she was the other one who would reach out and be like, hey, I know everyone's telling you you're weird, and that's because you are, but it's okay. And so it was, I don't know, it was sort of an album of finding out who we are without the usual comforts and without the usual people around to tell us.
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely get that sense of that coming from a place of being a black sheep or a bit of an outcast or just not being sure where you stand with things. And I found so much like gentle wisdom in what you were singing about, through those songs. Again, reflecting very personally on what I've been going through. I just had so many moments where it made me feel okay, honestly. I could not have found your music in a better moment in my life, because it's at this moment of, like you said, am I getting okay with this, or am I getting used to this? And then there's even some grief involved with that, should I feel okay? Or there's just so much, I don't know. It really struck me in that moment. And I mean, you've got a fan for life now. So it was a beautiful thing. So.
Well, you have a fan for life now too.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to hear. So, okay, so let's go back a little bit. My understanding is we've got, let's see, one of you from Pennsylvania. That's you, Mallory, right? And then Scott from California.
Yep.
So
California.
how do you two connect over music and otherwise, coming from such disparate areas?
Well, we when we were in college, we both did a semester on Martha's Vineyard. There was a music school on the island, and like 35 students, all kind of learning how to write songs and do that sort of thing. After that program, we all moved to us and a couple friends. A few friends. We moved to Asheville, North Carolina, where we formed an artist colony, a very ill-fated artist colony. Didn't really go too far.
We were like in our 20s and didn't realize you also have to pay rent. You can't just like live a life of
artistry,
artist dreams,
debauchery.
So it's a shame that's how that works.
So we moved to Nashville, spent about 5 years in Nashville. That's where we formed the band and the band. And then we started, we quit our jobs because we were so sick of like working these odd jobs to pay rent on a place where we never actually were, because we were trying to be out gigging. And so,
and Nashville was changing quite a bit at the time too. I don't know if you've spent any time there in the last few years, but it's kind of exploded. And so like it went from being a town of like, okay, it's kind of small and we can sort of figure things out, to not being able to afford rent because everyone's moving there. And so it's such a wild place now that we don't recognize it. And I think we kind of felt ourselves like coming to understand that like we weren't going to find our voice there. Like we would find a lot of other people's voices and we would maybe be tempted to follow those. But as far as being true to who we are, I don't think that we could have stayed in that town and done that. I think it's too distracting of a town.
Sure. Yeah, I get the sense, Nashville is sort of the what Austin was a while back, where, it became this place for art and creativity, but it drew so much of that energy, almost became a victim of its own success. It kind of outgrew it. And, I've seen a lot of Michigan artists that we have not lost, but I still claim them as Michigan artists, but have gone to Nashville. Yeah. But I've seen a couple of artists that have come from Nashville to Michigan. And I'm like, yeah, okay. We had a guest on the show, Kelly Hoppenjans, who she was in Nashville and now she is based in Michigan. And I'm like, yeah, we took one. That's right. That's ours now. So
one for the mitten.
That's right. So I understand your exit from Nashville was somewhat dramatic, though.
Yeah, we had been tossing around the idea of getting an RV for a while.
We wanted to do this thing like a year before we actually did it. We were like called out to the universe and we're like, universe, somebody give us an RV, somebody give us a camper so that we could live our dream. And like the universe was like, cool. Could you just do it yourself? So our landlord, there was a huge ice storm in Nashville in 2015, and it knocked out like the power, it knocked out like our heat went out, and our landlord refused to fix it because she was like, "Don't worry, spring is coming." So we went 12 days without heat during an ice storm, and we were you know what? We're done. Yeah. Like we're done with this. I think a tree limb fell on your car.
It did, yeah.
It was like the town was sort of spitting us out. So we said, okay, that's it. We're done. And so we put in our 30 days notice with our bosses and with our landlord, and we sold everything we could, and we bought a camper and moved into it. And 30 days later, there we were in West Virginia in a camper being like, did anybody know what we're doing?
Yeah, because that's a whole lifestyle. I mean, the nomad lifestyle is not... It's not something you just dive into. You did, but
well, I mean, and in some ways, that's the only way you can do it. You know, like you figure out very quickly where you can and can't park for the night. And
and at the time, there weren't quite as many. Like, if you put in #camper life, you would not get like a bazillion like other hashtags. It was just like us and like 500 other people have tagged that, and I was like, surely someone else has done it.
But yeah, I mean, there are a ton more resources now if you're someone living the more nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do now.
Yeah, but we loved it. We had a great time. But you know, we recently got a place in New Hampshire just because it's. You know, it was time. Yeah, it was time. We have some other interests, and because our other camper was falling apart.
Oh man, was it falling apart? It was. Yeah, it finally died. 400,000 miles and almost 9 years, and it finally died last year. So.
Oh wow. Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, well, we were driving down an interstate in New Jersey, and we hit a bump, and like the frame started separating from the rest of it, and it looked like it was talking to us on the road, and that was like, let us send it out to pasture.
That's excellent. I mean, that's a pretty good run. I feel like you got your money's worth out of that RV.
Oh, so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're spending this time on the road, obviously pursuing your music. Do you have any fun or harrowing stories from the road, musically or otherwise?
Oh,
we got stuck up on a mountain and couldn't quite turn around
this last month. You would think we would learn by now, but we did not learn.
Yeah, we went up this mountain in California in the middle of the night, and it must have taken us. We just parked. We pulled off the side of the road because we're like, we can't go any further.
It was too scary.
We found the widest part in the road and took maybe the 35K turns until we.
But it was just like a ledge on one side. There's just a ledge, and then there's like the mountainside on the other. And I just thought, like, we have been doing this for 10 years and we have not learned our lesson yet. Like, this is still our life.
Do not do that.
You do not do.
But it was beautiful. We got some great pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
Very Instagrammable.
You have those moments where, we walk through our lives and there's a lot that just sort of works and there's a system that's built and we kind of all take it for granted. And then sometimes you get out in those moments and you realize just how rough and tumble things really are. I mean, your story there about getting stuck in the mountain reminds me, I was road tripping around Iceland, and there's this road there that it's just about as wide as a car. And it's made of gravel, so it's constantly sort of just crumbling beneath you. And there's a wall on one side and a drop on the other side, and it's two-way. And you're like, oh yeah, the world's not all paved, and
right. Yeah. Nothing is guaranteed to be safe. Yeah. It's
that is a real thing.
And I think we live in a society where you're like, well, if this doesn't work for me, I can always exchange it for my money. You know, I can always get my money back if I keep the receipt.
Mm-hmm.
And that just isn't true with, you know, all things geographical. You know,
yeah,
with terrain, it's there's you have to watch your steps sometimes. And that's a good thing to be reminded of.
Well, yeah, because I mean that extends relationally too. I think that's definitely something that we take way too much for granted. I think we're sanitized and to the point of not understanding that everything is incredibly dangerous in a wonderful way. Like, you know, watch that, but it's wonderfully dangerous out there.
Well, and I imagine, you know, you can relate to as artists, and I think we're of a similar generation. You know, I think we've seen in our lifetimes that danger aspect, I think, applies really to everything, because, you know, we were all probably raised with the idea of, you know, get the safe office job and the 401k and all that. And then we've seen multiple times in our lifetimes all of that just collapse from underneath people. I mean, I'll never forget, you know, talking about, you know, exchanging things for money. When I came back from my wandering the earth to Michigan, I bought a house immediately because, you know, it's an investment. And I always was told, you know, if I don't want it, I can just turn around and sell it immediately and get, you know, and then it was within 6 months of purchasing my house, the 2008 recession happened. And, you know, let me tell you, it wasn't happening anymore. And so many people, I think, lost on the safe bet. You know, it makes sense that more people are out there doing the passionate things now, because it's a risk either way, you know.
Yeah, it is a risk either way. Yeah. And I honestly can't wait to find out what a 401k is. Yeah. I'm like on the edge of my
All right, so you're in school, you're in the artist collective, you escape Nashville, but before all that, each of you, what was your entrance into playing music? I mean, how far back does that go in your lives?
I think that goes back further back than either of us can remember. I mean, at least for me, it's further back than I can. Like, there was never a time that I didn't understand that this was my life. And I took a few side trips, I think, along the way, because practicality gets in the way, of course. And people telling you, like, that's a really nice hobby, but make sure you have a plan. That kind of gets in the way. I remember I made, I've told this story before, but like I have, in my third grade, you know, you're supposed to make your career report. And I said that I was going to just be Shania Twain when I grew up, because that seemed reasonable. And so, but then I had to redo my report. Like, my teacher was like, that's not practical. That's not a thing that we can understand. And so, like, what is an actual career you would like? And so I ended up saying that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And so now I am basically
you're
Shania Twain with two big dogs. Yeah. That's what I am now.
Yeah. All right.
So
take that, third grade teacher.
Yeah, exactly. But in college, you know, I kind of sidetracked myself, and I was like, you know what, that isn't very practical. And this is, you know, I went to school for communications, and if it wasn't for this one professor who was like, but weren't you a singer for your whole life? Shouldn't you go do this program? That's, you know, like, I don't know. If it wasn't for that one person saying, like, no, just remember who you are. I'm not sure if I would be doing this. And I honestly cannot imagine my life having gone any other way.
Yeah. No, it's like you don't know what fits until you try on the thing that fits, you know? And I think, I mean, we both grew up singing in church and in school, and, you know, playing instruments to varying degrees of success, and, you know, and listening to a lot of music and trying our hand at writing music. And, you know, it was always something that I was interested in, always something you were interested in, but it really did take just trying it on and deciding that it, you know, that it actually worked.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out, you know, you got to try it on. So,
Yeah. And it's excellent when you have those people that do steer you in the right direction, because all of that advice, you know, of, again, get the safe job. And I mean, that's all from a place of care, but it's nice to meet those people in the world that are like, well, you know, there is another way too.
Yes.
There is another way.
Yeah. So has it always been the Rough and Tumble, or were you in other bands together or separately, or how did that all go down?
Yeah, we when we first moved to Nashville, I was doing kind of a rock and roll thing. It was called Mallory Graham and Her Invisible Friends, and Scott was my lead guitarist. Yeah. And then Scott was just doing Scott Tyler.
Yeah, I was doing some Sad Bastard songwriters.
And I would occasionally hop on shows and sing harmony, but it wasn't. Yeah. You know, and that was kind of it. Like, we both kind of went through our experimental solo stuff, and then we found each other really within the first year of really trying to do anything of like professional capacity. And so, if you can call that professional, but it was really about the writing. So we both have always been more into the writing than any other part. Like, we both love playing, we both love performing, and that is how we make our living. But the essence of who we both were came down to the writing. And so we started writing these songs that weren't fitting for either of our projects. And so we would come together and finish each other's songs. And it was, it just made sense. It was the most like practical, even moving into the camper. Like, a lot of people are like, wow, what a huge risk. That's so crazy. But it was like the next right thing to do. It never didn't make sense. It never seemed wild and crazy. Like, when I quit doing my solo thing, it wasn't like this big decision that I had to make. It was like, no, of course this is it. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Right, Scott?
That's right.
How far back are we talking? Because I was poking around your I think it was your website or maybe a Bandcamp. I can't remember if you have a Bandcamp, but you guys have a lot of music up there. That's for sure. There's a ton of stuff.
We do. Yeah, we started this group in 2011, and
we try to put out a record or an EP a year. And so we, excepting 1 year, I think we've done it. So we try and alternate it so that it's an EP 1 year and a full record the next year. So we're not kind of overworking ourselves, but it was this kind of unspoken challenge at first. And then it just sort of became how we would work. Like, it just seemed like a very natural fit that like we would be writing the next thing as we are performing the last thing, so that we kind of we don't ever get burnt out on one thing. It's, we like that pace, so far. And if we ever don't, we'll change it. Yeah. But right now we're currently working on an EP that we hope to be out at the end of this year. And we are also writing like crazy right now. So we also have our kind of next record in the hopper waiting to be recorded next year as well. And it's kind of also a way for us to like make it financially feasible, because as much as we tour and that is how we make our living, being able to come through a town every year, but with new material, makes a really big difference for people coming out to see us. And so it's something that we offer ourselves, but it's also something that we offer the people who are sticking with us, that like, oh, and the next time they come through, they'll probably have a new record or they'll have something new to share with us. Which I don't know if maybe that is just for us, actually, because I know a lot of people are like, why don't you ever play these other songs that we like?
Yeah, but I mean, the music is so much about like marking your year, marking your life. And, recording definitely is that for us. And so I think we need to write as much as we need to perform in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of the writing is maybe very, in what you're living. Is that accurate? Yeah. Or in what you recently have lived?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of, and we're in our 30s and now nearing our 40s. And so that's definitely a time when you start unpacking your childhood. And that's a time when you start unpacking, where I was married before. And that was we've kind of worked our way. When we started the Rough and Tumble, we kind of worked from the present and have sort of worked our way backwards as far as kind of unpacking our own lives. And I think we're now at a place where we're back in the I think we've unpacked enough of our family issues for now that we can come back to the present.
Yeah. No, but we've tried writing about everything. We did this really fun project called the Rough and Tumble's Holiday Awareness Campaign back in 2013, where we picked 24 underappreciated holidays and wrote 24 underappreciated songs for them.
Still underappreciated.
Yeah. And so, it is just so much fun to, to write a song. And even when you don't exactly think that you have a song to write, it's fun to go and kind of chase down what that song could be.
Well, and that kind of was the whole point of that, was to see if we could do it. We were young. We were a very young band at that point. So it was like, well, how much music can we make in a year? Can we do this? Can we write 24 songs and release them in a year? And we did it, and that felt really good. Yeah. And so then it's
still up on the internet. We're not like not ashamed of it. Like it's
Oh yeah. No, you're right.
What's your favorite underappreciated holiday?
Ooh, Meteor Day is really fun.
Meteor Day is really fun.
That's June 26th.
26th, is that right?
I think so.
We should really look that up. We should brush up on our holidays. We wrote for that song, If I Was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, You'd Know My Name by Now. And so it was about a Tyrannosaurus Rex having an identity crisis.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that one was
really fun. But
I really liked Evaluate Your Life Day.
Evaluate Your Life Day.
That ended up being like, it's funny because that record was written over a year where I was going through a divorce, because Scott and I, we weren't dating when we started this band. And I was kind of had a very tumultuous first marriage from the get-go. We all saw it coming. And so this record, when you listen to it, you can hear it starting off really perky and really fun, and then it just slowly gets more sad. And so, but Evaluate Your Life Day was really a turning point.
That was a real turning point for the album. Yeah.
So did the T-Rex song come during the bright and shiny portion or during the dark portion?
It was kind of the meteor that like landed, and then everything changed. Everything changed that post Meteor Day. So.
That's awesome.
Fair point.
Do you ever go more external with the songwriting? Characters or things that are not as autobiographical.
Yeah, I
know you're not T-Rexes, so
right. Yeah, we've written for a soundtrack before.
We had a friend who was doing a short film on post-traumatic stress disorder among women exiting the military, and it was called Pieces and Pieces, and she asked us to write a soundtrack for it. And so that was definitely us trying on, like, neither of us have been in the military, and neither of us that we know of particularly struggle with PTSD in that format. And so it was definitely us an exercise in empathy and really having to carefully do research and do justice to someone else's story, which is a story that is way too prevalent in the United States. And so it was a very difficult record to write, but it also it came out easily. Like it was emotionally hard to write, but it was easy to write, because I think anytime you're writing from someone else's anytime you take the time to empathize, you are learning more about yourself, but you have this liberty of being able to put on someone else's voice, so you feel freer to be able to write, if that makes sense. So. Yeah. So maybe the answer is no, we've never written anything not biographical, because like even when you're stepping into someone else's shoes, there's this piece of you that kind of falls out, with it.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. I mean, I'm a writer myself, and I wrote a full-length screenplay a couple years back, and the main character, it's an apocalyptic situation. It's she's a lesbian, she's lost her family, all these different things that I have no relation to, and then I get to the end of the story, and I'm like, oh. This entire thing is all about the issues I have with like organized religion and how I handle grief versus, despair. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I am in this character no matter how far off I tried to put it away from me,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like you said, like sometimes that is your entrance into figuring out what's going on with
everywhere yourself, you go, there you are.
Yep. That's for sure. So you're doing quite a bit of touring right now. Anything like really exciting on the horizon? Anything you're looking forward to besides just the general getting out there playing shows?
Yeah, we're doing Nor'easter Festival up in Mayo, Michigan.
It's their 20th anniversary this year.
Yeah, that's June.
Great question.
I think it's the second weekend in June,
yeah,
and that's a festival we do every year. A lot of good friends are playing that. A lot of great bands this year, and so we're pretty excited about that one.
We're mostly excited to be back in the Midwest. We went out to California for this tour, and Scott's from California, and we saw some big trees and we saw some big mountainsides. We did all the California things, but there was something about coming back to the Midwest that was sort of like, oh, okay, and now our tour starts. Like there's like this coming home sort of feeling that we get being here, and it's I don't know. It's very pleasant. We took a lot of really big swings last year professionally. We went to the conferences. We were doing a lot of the stuff that you're expected to do, and we kind of got burnout. And so this year we've been very conscientious about booking shows that we would enjoy and going at a pace that wasn't beyond our actual emotional ability. And so we have honestly just been enjoying the ride this year, and like literally enjoying the drive too, like, which is something that hasn't happened in years for us because we're always driving. But I think we've just been trying to slow our brains down a little bit and be in the place that we are. And I think that has us kind of excited about being us again.
So when you're out there on the road, what's your favorite road trip entertainment? Are you listening to music, playing board games, or how are you keeping yourselves interested?
Well, we did just get a game from a Vermont general store called What Bird Am I? And it is a card game in which you look at a bird and on this card, and then you decide what bird it is. And
it gives you like 5 different clues.
That are terrible clues if you don't know anything about birds, which we don't. We thought this was going to be a game that was like going to help us in some way learn our birds, but it turns out it is for people who know their birds, and we do not. So we are really having a good time with that. And by a good time, I mean, it's not fun at all, but we keep doing it.
Very slowly.
But we have been listening to a lot of music this year. I think that's part of our slowing down process is we haven't listened to enough music in the last few years. And I think we're taking some time to really intentionally listen to records multiple times. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was just going to say that's something that we don't do. Like there's always so much music, and
there's always more to be like consume, and then you never appreciate it.
Yeah, there are these records that I love on first listen that I never listened to a second time.
I know.
And it's such a bummer, because back in the 90s, you have the CD and you spent good money on that CD,
and then you listen to it, and then you listen to it again, and then you listen to it only from the left speaker and then only from the right speaker just to see if there was a difference.
Yeah. I do. Through our website, we release a weekly mixtape, and so I am also we're constantly listening to new stuff and and pushing into new. But I had to create a rule for myself to kind of step back from that go mindset where every album gets at least 2 listens, even if it doesn't hit me the first time. And I can't tell you how many albums the second time through I've been like, oh, now I'm getting it.
That is cool. I love to hear that.
But it is a thing where there is so much music now, or we have access to so much music now that it can be overwhelming to keep up, and but also to take the time to appreciate things.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to say, to keep up, because who are you keeping up with? Like it's a funny thing to because that's what we've been doing. I'm like, how do we keep up? And it's like, keep up with what?
Yeah. You're never going to listen to it all. You're never going to watch every movie or TV show or read every book. It's just like, yeah. Maybe I should just do this for my own enjoyment, right?
Yeah. That's what we're learning. It's a hard lesson.
Yeah. So what are you discovering? What are some things you're listening to lately?
Okay. So our 5 records this month. We're only listening to 5 records all month.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're being very diligent about it. So, last month, what was last month? Well, it was Cowboy Carter, Beyonce's new record.
Yep.
We did Chapel Roan.
Chapel Roan, yeah.
Rise and Fall of really Midwestern Princess.
F.E. O'Donovan.
Age of Apathy. Because they don't have to be new records. They just have to be new to us.
Sure, yeah.
List. Oh, Mama's Broke. Have you ever heard of Mama's Broke?
I have not.
Gosh, they're great. And they have it's this duo out of Canada, I think out of maybe Nova Scotia. And they have this album out called Narrow Line, and it is stunning, beginning to end. Yeah. But this month is the new Taylor Swift. we are going for it because neither of us are particularly Swifties, but and I kind of fell off after her second album, and I was like, you know what? She's big enough of a deal. I should probably try this.
I should know.
I should know this.
Sure.
The new records.
It's pretty fun.
Really it's amazing. It's really good. A lot of relatable feels for me on that album right now. I've been. I am not ashamed to say that, a week or two ago, I was crying to the new Taylor Swift album. It's fine,
That's real.
Yeah, I feel that. We're also listening to Chris Smithers. Chris Smither has a new record out called All About the Bones. And then who else are we listening to? The new Sarah Jarosz, her new one. And I'm listening to Hooray for the Riff Raff. Alibi. Is that right? Yeah.
The new one, yeah. I love that album.
And that has been really, really stunning. Also Ryan Beatty. He has this record called Calico, and I don't know much about him yet. He was just a recommendation, but it's giving me some real like early 2000s vibes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that? I don't know. There's some nostalgia that it's hitting for me.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because we've been going through a lot of the 90s sounds lately, so it makes sense we get into the 2000s now.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. We're there.
That's I love that Hooray for the Riff Raff album. That's in my top 5 of the year right now. It's definitely up there.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's gonna hit. I think it's gonna hit something for me. Yeah. That's awesome. What about, when you were coming up, what were you listening to growing up? What were your parents playing? Or what did you connect to early on in life in music? So much 90s country for me.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be Shania Twain, so yeah.
No. Mallory is kind of this jukebox, and you stick a quarter in, and you're going to get...
Well, where are you sticking the quarter in?
Well, yeah.
That's so uncomfortable.
It is, yeah. So, but you stick the quarter in, and you're either going to get a 90s country song, or you're going to get like a
Doublemint gum ad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like jingles.
Yeah. She has so many jingles
just
stuck in her brain, and it's really,
unfortunate.
Really fun. Yeah.
I also listen to a lot of gospel music because we both grew up. I grew up in a church that was very like fundamentalist Christian, and so I have like all of these hymns forever in my brain, which is an interesting thing whenever you are, leaving your religion.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do with all those melodies?
What do you do with all those melodies? No, that's the truth. And I think it's been a decade of me, having been not that religion anymore, but continuing to sing those songs. And so it's like me kind of coming back again to like the musicality of it, I think has been a comfort.
Yeah.
What about you, Scott?
Yeah.
You listen to U2.
I listen to a lot of U2.
Chicago. I'm going to out him.
Chicago. Got really into folk music in college. My mom was always a big James Taylor fan. And so that was kind of like always going on in the background of my childhood.
A lot of church music.
A lot of church music. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff here on the radio.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you both have that background in religion coming up as kids?
We both do. And, like so many people our age, like we just left the church and haven't exactly looked back.
No.
Or you look back by having conversations with friends who've also, left the church. And I don't know, in a lot of ways, I feel like what church was really good for was being a place where you could sing with other people,
mm-hmm.
Being a place where where you had community. And I think in a lot of ways, people of our generation are missing that. And and so I enjoyed doing the folk music thing because it is kind of a way to recapture that. You know, we have such a community without the baggage, without like the dogma. And we have so many people out here who've come out to our shows and have become friends who we can rely on in the same sorts of ways that I felt like I could rely on the people in my church growing up. And you know, we get to sing together. That is like one of the fundamental things about being human that connects us to other humans.
And as a bonus, you get to freely explore ideas without being called a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. That's a real purpose.
I mean, music is sort of the ultimate communal thing. You know, you're making me think of there's a brewery nearby here that does these great. I think every Sunday, you know, or most Sundays, they do this. They call it greenhouse picking. And if you have an acoustic instrument, whether it be a guitar or a pair of spoons, you know, you go into there and you just sit down and someone calls out a song and it can be a dozen people in there just jamming, and then everyone else is just coming and watching them play. And it's such a beautiful communal moment.
Yeah, that is rad. I love that.
Yeah.
We recently took part in for our community at home. Well, for the Vermont community just across the river where we live, and they have started a community sing along, and it's called the Bring Along Sing Along, and we got to take part in organizing it. And so every month, there is a new host that comes in and brings, you know, songs that they love, or, you know, whatever they choose from their culture or from, you know, their upbringing or their own, you know, portfolio. And the community shows up, and then there's a screen and everybody looks at the screen, reads the lyrics and sings along. And it has been kind of awesome.
That's beautiful. I'll have to get more info on that from you, because I have a friend, he's been trying to set up this thing. You know, we have a somewhat, you know, segregation is not a word, but we have places in this community that don't necessarily, populations of the community that are kind of isolated to one area. They don't come, you know, downtown, or this group doesn't come and talk to this group, kind of a thing. We were trying to put together an event to bring people together, and they had this idea for everyone bring a song or choose a song, and then tell us, you know, we'll play that song. You can tell us why it means something to you, you know, and figured we'd get this variety of thoughts and art and whatnot, you know, because again, music is the most communal thing there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't Matt Watroba from Michigan?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Matt Watroba?
I don't think so. No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, he's a folk singer in the purest sense of the word folk singer, and
he leads sing-alongs. Like, he learned how to lead people in singing from Pete Seeger, and was able to, like, we shared a festival with him last year before we had started the sing-along, the community sing-along, and he just told us about, like, he talks about the importance of communities getting together and singing, and about, like, sharing music and like what that does for a community and interpersonally. And, you know, anyway, he's a great resource in your state if ever you want to talk to him about how to get a community together to sing.
Yeah,
that is beautiful. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. That's awesome. So as we wind down here, is there anything we've missed so far? Have we not touched on what you guys are doing or coming up to?
I think we covered a lot.
We covered a lot of ground.
I'm really curious about this T-Rex song. I'm going to have to look it up after we get off. So we'll put this episode up kind of as you're just gearing into your Michigan shows. So that way our audience is going to have the opportunity to see you in quite a few places. So I wish you luck on your tour. Hopefully I can get out there and check you out when you're in Three Oaks.
Yeah, thanks, Just.
Yeah. All right. Well, you two take care. Be safe on the road out there, and hope to see you soon. Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
All right. Take care. You have been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops, a product of Red Chuck Productions. Be sure to keep tabs on everything going on with this show and everything else Red Chuck over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us at Red Chuck Productions on social media. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out, listen to their songs, and see where they're going to be over at herojrmusic.com. That's HEROJRMUSIC.com. Also, special thanks to Paul Clemson, our sound engineer and producer. And while you're at it, make sure you visit the websites and band camps and shows of all of our guests. If you want local music, if you want independent music, or any kind of art, you've got to support them. So give musicians and artists your money. We will see you at the next episode. Until then, here's to life.
Well, 'cause I, could I, would I?